Hey, I'm Riley, and you're listening to the Trans Music Podcast, a show where we explore the art, work, lives, and politics of your favorite transgender musicians. Don't have a favorite trans musician? This is where you get one. Well, folks, my fourth worst podcast fear has been realized. In between the time I interviewed them and the airing of this show, today's guest changed their name. Well, I made it work. If you're curious, my third worst podcast fear is someone changing their name after the airing of the show. My second worst podcast fear is putting someone in physical danger. And my number one worst podcast fear is that this is all a dream. And I'm going to wake up tomorrow with hundreds of hours of audio editing to do and no Red Bull to do it with. Today on the show, we have Sinclair Palmer. I went to visit Sinclair at their little cabin by a creek in Hillsboro, North Carolina. When I first drove up to their house, they were outside chopping wood for their wood stove. Obviously, I immediately took my camera out. If you want to see those pictures, and you do, read along with the interview transcript on the Durham Beat website. I'll put a link in the show notes and on transmusic.org. This is like nude calendar levels of butch confidence, y'all. Abercrombie and Fitch model levels. They've got a little gap tooth going on. I'm telling you, you do not want to miss this. Go check it out. They're a grad student in musicology at UNC Chapel Hill, a violin teacher, and they play electric bass for two awesome local bands. And we got so into an ethical debate that we totally lost track of time, so this is a long-ass interview. Let's get started. Hey, this is Riley for transmusic.org and the Durham Beat, and I'm talking to Sinclair Palmer. They're a classically trained musician on bass and viola, and they're also in two really interesting local bands, an Afro-Brazilian sort of dance band, samba reggae band.
Yeah, that's how Kaiki would describe it.
And a punk band called the Muslims. Mm-hmm. How much of your time is dedicated to like each band individually? Like, you must be in practice constantly, right?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I don't know, it's weird because, like, I wasn't, like, a permanent member of any band until I was, like, 21 or 22.
You're just, like, a hired gun?
Yeah, all the time. Just, like, constantly subbing for people in bands and, like, trying to just, like, make money all the time. Mm-hmm. And so then when... Let's see, Batuque started first. Batuque was already going, and then they decided that they wanted to expand the instrumentation a little bit, and so they're like, all right, we're going to get a bass player and, like, a horn section and all this stuff, and they, like, held auditions and everything. And,
wow.
And they picked me, like, that night, which was really cool, and it's been probably close to 3 years now or something.
And there's a lot of people in that band.
Yeah, there are, like, 12 people in that band. And so that band rehearses once a week. And then the Muslims, we don't rehearse as much, but it's, you know, whenever we can, we're trying to rehearse more. We used to rehearse a lot more. But otherwise, like, I have to rehearse a lot for the freelance gigs, too. Like, kind of especially the freelance gigs, because it's like I've played with Kate Rudy recently, who's kind of like a Americana country artist in the area. I actually went to middle school with her, and then we both became, like, gigging musicians. But she's, like, toured the country and stuff, and I'm just, like, trying to, like, make my money in North Carolina, like, just sticking around here and, like, not doing anything particularly important. But, like...
Hey, hang on a minute now.
I mean, it's important, you know, but, like, nobody knows unless they're, you know, from here and know me or something.
We're, right now, to paint the picture, we're at this, like, small cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like nice. It's not like a log cabin, but it's
got central air, which I'm thankful for.
It's beautiful. There are big windows overlooking the Eno River. There's instruments everywhere. There's a wood stove. There's a little sign on the fridge that says, "Do these things daily. Eat food, take your meds. Work out, drink water, practice mindfulness," which I love.
Yeah. Taking my meds is one that I really have to remember. Because, like, I think I've been on meds for, like, 4 years, and I can never remember to take them.
No,
Anyway.
your house is, it's very cute. It's very
Thank
cute.
you. It's been in my family. There's like a long story as to like why and how it was built, but it was built in the 80s and has just been here ever since. It's just like a guest house storage place, but I definitely love living here.
Is this your art on the walls?
This is most of it is art that was made by different family members, actually. So, like, my aunt, Leah Palmer Price, is a local artist who lives in Raleigh, and there's a lot of art in here that she did when she was, like, a teenager. But she is, like, that's how she makes her living now. Like, she did that in high school, I think, and, like, a lot of this other stuff. And a lot of it is also my great-grandmother's art. Like, that over the fireplace is...
Oh, wow.
my great-grandmother's. And
So you have, like, a very artistic family.
yeah, I mean, you know, like, most of them were or have been artists, like visual artists, painters in particular. Like, my grandmother also made a lot of this art, too. It took, like, 2.5 hours to hang all of it.
And it's not a huge house.
It's not a huge house. Like, every inch of space that I could have possibly hung art on, there's art.
There is.
Without it looking too trashy. But
So
it already looks kind of trashy.
Did your family get you into music, or was that something you wanted to do?
Well, my dad's a musician. And he's a bass player.
Oh, okay, so right from your dad.
Yeah, but I didn't grow up living with my dad. Like, I didn't live with him. And didn't see him a ton. Just... Not because he didn't want to see me, like, we had a great relationship and everything. It was just... So I lived with my mom, and she got a degree in theater, so she was an actor. She is an actor. She didn't die. She's still alive. But she got a degree in theater, and I lived with her, and I grew up with her, and she signed me up for my first music class, which was in the 3rd grade for, like, elementary school orchestra in Raleigh. Yeah. So, my first instrument was the violin, actually. And then in middle school in Raleigh, I started playing the viola and the bass. And, you know, went into high school and, like, did both viola and bass, like, all the time. It was so crazy, like, being in, like, doing all of these orchestra things and playing viola a lot for money in high school, and then also, like, playing bass in school, but, like, not really having it be a very, like, I don't know, supervised activity, I guess. Like, playing in school but not doing any, like, extracurriculars, but just, like, gigging in high school. Like, going to places that I wasn't supposed to be in and, like, making money there and, like, hoping that nobody would
Like
question
jazz
me.
clubs?
Yeah, like, I played at Seagrace a lot when I was in high school, which is this little, like, speakeasy-type bar in...
On the viola?
No, playing jazz bass.
Oh, like with a band?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So that was, like, when my freelancing started, was just, like, in high school, like, gigging, playing jazz with my dad a lot, too.
So did you have lessons, too, or did you just taught yourself?
I taught myself in high school.
Oh my
on
God,
bass.
wow.
Yeah. And then, but I was getting lessons on viola, but not bass. Like, I had this really strict viola teacher who was, like, used to be the principal of the North Carolina Symphony, and he, like, his name is Hugh Partridge. He's still around, too, but he would be like, you have to practice, like, you can't do anything else. I was, like, in marching band and stuff in the beginning of high school, playing on the drum line and, like, doing all this crazy... I was doing everything. Like, he was like, you have to quit the drum line, and, like, I would stop playing bass because viola is what's going to make you money and, like, all this stuff, and, like, here I am, not, like, hardly playing viola anymore, which is funny, but yeah, viola was a big part of my life. And then in college, it was like, well, you have to pick a major. You can't major in 2 instruments. They won't let you do that. So.
That sucks. They should.
I know. Well, actually, you know, it kind of, like, puts things into perspective, too, you know, because it's like, if you really want to get good, like, most people just have to, like, narrow their focus. You know? Just to, like, be able to use energy efficiently. Mental
That's
energy,
true.
physical energy, and, like, train your body to do one thing, you know, and, like, harness everything you've got and put it into that thing. So...
And for people who don't know, like, the barrier of entry into professional classical music is super, super high. Like, you have to
Oh,
be
yeah.
a true master.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, and that was in the West, like, in the United States, and in, like, a world that's been, like, really shaped by, like, Western supremacy and white supremacy. Like, I was thinking, like, well, I can't play jazz. I have to play viola. Like, I have to get an orchestra job. That will prove that I'm, like, a real musician and everything, you know? Like, that will prove that I have, like, the best musical training, and I'm trained in, like, the most advanced kind of music, you know, it's like classical music. And so I chose viola, and I was a viola major my first semester of college. And as soon as I got there and met the jazz majors and started connecting with them and making friends and going to jam sessions in Greensboro at UNCG, which is where I went to college, like, I realized that I had made a horrible mistake, and that, like, jazz is actually a very, very, very advanced level of thinking. Like, playing jazz and thinking and writing and all of the other...
And improvising.
And, like, you know, all of the other gerunds that you can possibly think of. Like,
jazz music.
Making jazz and, like, recreating jazz in other mediums is, like, so... It's fucking hard to do that stuff. So it's, like, incredibly respectable. You know? But, you know, then again, like, if respectability politics are, like, the thing that are propelling you in your music career, then, like, you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons. So, you know, but then that's, like, I know this is, like, a super long rant right now. But
No, you're good. I mean, I know, like, I did classical music, like, I was a violist, too. So I did classical music, like, all, like, my entire childhood. I mostly do fiddle now because, like, I think it's fun.
I think I've seen you play fiddle.
Yeah.
I forget where. Was it, like... Oh, it was at Manifest.
Yes.
You played at Manifest. And Jesse's band? I thought so. Didn't you guys play a gig at the Pinhook, like, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I was supposed to play on that.
Yeah, you were supposed to play on that. Yeah.
And I was, like, talking to Jesse about it, and I was like, yeah, cool. And they were like, here's the music, and...
They said you ghosted them.
I did not ghost them. There was, like, 3 days where, like, we didn't talk because I was, like, in school all day.
Oh, okay.
And then, like, 3 or 4 days before the gig, I was like, hey, Jesse, I haven't, like, heard from you in a minute. Like, when do you want to rehearse? And they were like, oh, I got someone else. I didn't know what was going on. And I was just like, oh, okay. I was so sad. I was just like, fuck. Like, what did I... Jesse, I was like, did I ghost them?
Yeah,
like,
Jesse was like, I was really excited about playing with you, but they totally ghosted me. They just so ghosted me, and, like, I guess they don't want to do it anymore, so we gotta go get this other guy. I mean, he was great, but, like...
Oh, man, that sucks. I was so excited.
We need a bassist. We don't have a bassist.
Yeah. Well, I want to do it. I mean, I'm super busy until, like, May, basically, when I'm out of school. But when I'm out of school, like, I'm trying to fucking, like, play a lot, you know?
Well, you should be the Severed Fingers bassist.
That'd be dope.
I mean, we practice once a week.
Yeah, what day?
Thursdays, usually.
Thursdays?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I can do Thursdays.
We practice.
That sucks. I hate that Jesse thinks that I ghosted them.
Well,
I totally didn't mean to. I have, like...
I'll make them listen to this podcast.
Okay. I feel really bad, because I was actually excited, and I was, like, listening to the music, and, like... And
You're literally a graduate student.
Yeah.
And you have, like, 17 side jobs.
Yeah. Like,
so sometimes text messages don't work out.
Sometimes it just doesn't, yeah. And
That's
so,
okay.
I mean, like, I also, like, live here, and there's no service. I don't have Wi-Fi or cell service here.
You don't even have Wi-Fi?
I don't even have Wi-Fi. I have nothing.
That must be great for your mental health.
It's fucking amazing. It's amazing. I just, like, having a TV is, like, feels like a...
You just have musical
infection.
instruments and painting supplies.
Painting supplies, and, like, I read a lot.
Is that your violin right there?
That's my violin. It was my aunt's.
Oh, wow.
It's a Stradivarius copy. I have no idea who made it, but strings suck on it right now. But I teach a couple violin lessons. So.
Yeah, are you going to teach more lessons, do you think?
Fuck yeah. Yeah, lessons will make you bank, especially if you have 2 degrees.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that parents cared about master's degrees.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? They're like, oh, you have degrees, you must be the person to go to. But it doesn't really matter, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you know it doesn't matter, like, how many degrees you have. But, like, if you're, like, you know, putting up flyers or Craigslist ads or whatever, and you're like, I have a degree in music performance and musicology. And they'll be like, okay, yeah, you're obviously...
That's fair. If I had to pick between somebody who had a bachelor's and master's in the instrument, or even one of them in the instrument, versus someone who didn't, I guess I would probably pick that person. So do you ever compose? Like, do you ever write music?
Yeah. I usually don't have time, because writing music takes a lot for me. Like, I'm a really self-conscious person about, like, the art that I make. Mm-hmm. Particularly the music. It's hard for me to, like, make something and then, like, put it out there. And in that way, like, having degrees kind of sucks. Because, like, some people are like, well, what did you do when you were studying music in school? I don't know. I get, like, really caught up about that. And I'm like, I shouldn't, like, write music and perform it, because then it's like 100% mine. I'm not just like contributing a bass line, you know, like one piece of something. And like, people don't pay attention to bass players, so it's easy to kind of hide behind, you know, like, you're not playing like a lead instrument or anything. So I mean, it gives you some freedom too, but like, you know.
So you kind of get in your own head about being the front person, like, you, because I guess that's right.
Oh.
Bass, viola, electric bass.
It makes sense, right?
They're all support roles.
Well, yeah, like, you know, historically and typically they're support roles. And it's really fun to, like, manifest that space, you know? Mm-hmm. It's really fun to, like, be that person and, like, know to yourself that you're doing something really important. Mm-hmm. But, like, not having to perform as much. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, not, like, perform on stage, but, like, not having to, I don't know.
You're
like,
never the face.
You're not the face. Like...
You're, like, the left arm.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that, like, eventually you'll, like, come to your own and start composing stuff? Or are you just the kind of person who just feels really good being a stellar backing person?
Yeah. I feel like someday, well, I hope that someday I will be able to, like, find peace with, or be at peace with the idea of being the center person. And, like, because there are a lot of, I do, like, write music, mm-hmm. and I almost released an EP at the end of last summer, and I think it's kind of hard. Like, it took so much time that by the end of the process, where it was like, okay, like, you can release it into the world now, mm-hmm. I was a little exhausted by it and mm-hmm. didn't feel like, I just couldn't get around to doing the final steps that put it out into the world. I was just like, I don't like this music that I wrote anymore, which is, I'm sure, how people feel about albums that they released years ago. They're like, I don't like that album. I just released it then. It's here now, and marks, like, a place in my life where, like, something was finished, mm-hmm. this album, you know. But, like, I felt like by the time I could get around to putting it out, I was like, this should have been released so long ago that, like, I don't even want to do it anymore.
Yeah, that's tough. I wonder, because in the music industry, quote unquote, like, corporate music industry, that's how it is. Like, they write songs and it gets released, like, 2 years later. Yeah. When, like, the company decides that. And I wonder how that feels for them. Because I've done the exact same thing. I have, like, a 95% done album. Yeah. And, like, I wanted to release it for the end of the year. I'm like,
don't think it's gonna happen. Like, I just, like... Well, I mean, you, like, get all caught up in all the other stuff you have to do, and you're like, I'll get around to it later, and then by the time you're like, I should really do this, you don't want to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't know, that, like, last 5%, you're like, fuck it. I'm like, mm-hmm. I'm cool where I am, never mind, I don't want to do that anymore.
Or, like, you've gotten better, and then now you're like, well, do I redo this work?
Oh, yeah, totally,
do I redo this work, or do I, like, just put it out knowing that, like, I can do it way better now? That's just perfectionism. Right?
Yeah, that's probably what it is. I'm being a perfectionist about this EP.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's what's happening.
Well, now that you're in a punk band, shouldn't, like, that kind of wear away a little bit? Like it's cool to be not perfect.
Perfectionism. Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes, I don't know, but, like, what is perfect? You know, I think that's where I'm struggling. I mean, I know that's...
really philosophical.
It is a little philosophical.
That's a great way to, like, not do something. Is to say, like, well, what is perfect?
What is perfect?
What should I use as a determining factor to determine whether I release this or not?
Oh my god, this is, like, how I... Oh, man.
This is the beginning of a spiral. I can, like, feel it.
It already...
I can smell it.
You don't understand. Like, this is why... not why I'm getting out of grad school, but, like, the last few papers that I've written have all been, like, well, how are we defining this thing that we're holding to this, like...
What is a note?
That we're saying is the standard, and, I mean... I need to stop doing that. My brain goes in that direction, and it just goes into a bottomless pit of, like... I guess this paper will never be finished if I keep rambling, and it's like swimming through. Oh man, this is a very fruitful interview for me. You're right. You're totally right.
What's your support system like? Like, do you have people who are like, no, like, do that EP, baby. Like, it sounds so good.
Yeah.
Like, put that music out. Like, that cool thing you did. People
who are like that specifically, like, put out the EP. Well, everyone that was on it is like, what the fuck?
Oh, there was more people
on it, dude.
Oh, you like recorded a whole band.
Yes, like there's shit. There was like, you know, the notation software came out and everything. Like writing,
you wrote the entire.
I did it.
You orchestrated it. Gave it to people. They showed up to the studio.
They showed up to the studio and spent a whole day with me, and I paid them, and I like paid for studio time and like all of this stuff. And all I have to do, there's a lot of work to do. I have to re-record a couple tracks because some of it
better now.
Yeah, really. That's bottom line. That's, you know, that's the thing. It's like if I put my bass playing on there on the line, and like I just wouldn't want to. So yeah, I would want to re-record for me for sure. So that would be, I mean, it's a pretty big deal, and I don't really care about the means by which I record. Like, I would set up a single microphone in the middle of this room and put everyone around it and record like that.
You don't care about the fidelity, you care about the musicianship.
Oh, yeah, 100%. As long as everyone is heard, like, they just have to be heard.
I mean, you could just, like, record your bass parts back at the same place, right? Just be like, get a couple hours, record it over.
I mean, I just don't want to.
Yeah? Well, that's cool, too.
I just want to, you know, do it all again.
You just want to completely pretend it never happened.
Yeah, kind of. Not that it never happened, but...
So is it jazz?
I mean, no.
Are you, like, singing?
I don't think so.
Or, like...
No, it's pretty appropriative, actually. But, you know, if you want to hear more about what I think about cultural appropriation, you'll have to read my thesis. But, I mean, well, we all culturally appropriate all the time, constantly. Everything that we do. Like, I couldn't even count, like, the number of times that I'd be culturally appropriating something just in the room that we're in right now.
So that's what your thesis is about?
Mm-hmm.
When you say, okay, this is going to sound really silly. When you say cultural appropriation, you mean, like, sort of the theft version? Or, like, anytime someone kind of takes a cool thing from someone else's culture and uses it?
That's the thing, isn't it? Like... What's the difference that we're giving those two things when we use one word?
See, well, okay, I'll tell you how and I'm not an expert on the definition of cultural appropriation.
I'm not either.
When I hear it, I usually think about, like Urban Outfitters making, quote-unquote, like, Navajo t-shirts
it's totally, stuff. That's cultural appropriation.
Yeah, 100%. or like, you know, like, fake Buddhist stuff getting sold at, like, tchotchke shops.
Also cultural appropriation.
Or, like, I think of stuff that's, like, there's sort of a loss to a community because their culture is being consumed, but not, like, through them.
Right.
But I
that's cultural appropriation.
I think that, like, there's a lot of stuff that's just, like, cultural sharing.
Right.
Like, if I make a friend and that person is from a certain culture, and then, like, I spend a lot of time with them, and then, like, we do something together, and then I do it myself, and it's, like, cool.
Like, what kind of thing?
Like, not, like, a religious thing, but, like, you know, making a food, or, like,
That's also cultural appropriation.
Do you think of that as a bad thing?
No.
It's interesting, because, like, when I hear appropriation, like, I think of it as, like, oh, that's, like, a negative thing.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what my thesis is about. Is, like, we're using, like, one single word to describe the, like, morality of such a broad spectrum of actions.
I feel like
culture is really, like, you can't draw lines between cultures, and really, honestly. Like, if you look at any culture, like, we've all been appropriating from each other to some degree since the beginning of our existence.
Like, is appropriating the right word to use for that, though?
I mean, my thesis is trying to figure out, like, what's happening beyond cultural appropriation. Like, it's not trying to say that, like, all of these actions are not culturally appropriative, because they are. It's just the word cultural appropriation is so vague, I think. Like, because appropriating is just, like, taking something and using it.
Yeah, but, like, even though appropriation means that, when people use a term, I think they mean a little bit more of a specific thing.
Right, but what do they mean? So let's, like, use those words instead. Like, they're saying, like, okay, the Redskins is cultural appropriation.
I think the Redskins is worse. Like, Redskins is just, like, straight up.
Yeah, I mean, it's
awful.
Violence. It's violence, right? Like, it's violence. So let's call it violence instead of just cultural appropriation. Because, like, you know, we're also calling cultural appropriation, like, 6-year-olds having, like, wearing kimonos at their tea parties and stuff. Like, 6-year-olds. We're calling, like, an action that is taken by a 6-year-old violence. You know, like, wearing a kimono because they think it's cool.
What you're saying. I see what
you know
you're saying.
what I mean? Like, that 6-year-old doesn't know what they're doing, but these people that are creating the Redskins, and, like, that's violence, you know?
And making millions of dollars.
And making so much money, right?
I feel
that's a big thing. Like, there are all of these routes of power that, like, we're not separating from each other by just calling them all appropriation. Like, yeah, they're all appropriation, but, like, let's, like, you know, this is violence. This is, like, ignorance. Like, or it's violence via ignorance, or, like, it's appreciation. How can we measure, like, what's being gained? Like, Bruno Mars isn't black. He's not. I mean, he doesn't identify as black.
Right.
And he's making music that's being voted, like, #1 all across the Soul Train Awards. And, like, are we okay with that? And, like, who's allowed to say whether or not their people are okay with that? No single person can speak for their entire community, which makes things even more complicated. So, like, given all of this, we're just calling all of this, regardless of all of these ambiguities, just, it's all cultural appropriation. And that's where we're stopping. Like, why? Let's get down to it.
Like, abandon the term, redefine the term, come up with new terms for different ways that it manifests itself.
Different terms for new ways that it manifests itself. I mean, it's not necessarily new ways, though. I mean, it's all been happening for forever. But I think we need to be more specific when we talk about cultural appropriation. You know? Like, if we're just gonna say, like, this is culturally appropriative, like, you would have to fucking stop doing everything that you're doing. Like, who designed, like, short sleeve shirts and clothes and, like, your haircut, or, like, the tools that were used to cut your hair or make your food, or, like, where did you eat lunch today, and, like, where did you do this, and what are you wearing, what are you doing?
But I kind of feel like it would be a way better use of time, instead of freaking out about a 6-year-old, to be talking about, like, I don't know, the real economic conditions, and, like, what we can do to be more equal, and what we can do to not steal financially from each other.
Right.
And what we can do to, like, teach kids to, like, respect other people's heritages and stuff. Like, sometimes when people do call-outs, it's like, I feel like they don't go that final step.
Right. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
What can we do to keep harm from happening?
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't make sense.
But, like, who's being harmed? And what are we calling harm? You know, like, do you have to know that you're being harmed?
I don't think you have to know that you're being harmed for something to be fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the way that, like, all different types of oppression work is through, like, miseducation and misdirection.
Right.
When you're making, like, musical choices, like, does this just get in your head all the time? Or are you like, oh, I'm appropriating, like...
Well, I think about it, and I guess, like, I know that I'm appropriating. Because I don't really know, like, what culture I am a part of. I mean, I know different cultures that I'm a part of. Like, I'm mixed race, so I'm black, and I have no idea, like, what kinds of influences I've gotten, like, being a black person and a white person. I mean, I play, like, Brazilian music, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, Kaique would probably not say that I'm culturally appropriating by playing in his band, but, like, I think I am. And I don't know, like, if that's a bad thing or not, because he wants me to be there, you know? And, I mean, like, and it's also because, like, when I write music and, like, everything that I've learned from playing Brazilian music, I use everywhere.
Right.
Just like punk music or like studying James Jamerson or something. I'm like, I use that everywhere I play, no matter what the genre. Like, all of that influences me, whether I know it or not. You know, like, I have no idea, like, what I'm using that is, like, specific to where. I mean, I have some idea if it's really specific, but, like, you pick up a lot of stuff subconsciously and you recreate it. You use it subconsciously in the things that you do.
But it's, like, such an awesome thing.
Well,
like,
yeah,
that's
it's
a great thing.
But I still think, you know, but, like, where are we drawing the line in cultural appropriation? Like, there's so many just, like legal court cases where, like, all of this shit, like, copyright law, like, where all of this shit is tracked and documented. Like, where are they drawing the line?
Like, where did this riff come from?
I mean, like, musical copyright cases, like, if you look at the evidence that's presented, it's like, well, that's just, like, if you can apply, like, the contour of this melody here, then why wouldn't you apply it in these other two songs? Or, like, this bass line, like, what counts as a melody, like, all of the philosophical stuff is really put to the test.
In court cases.
In court, yeah. Like...
Which I think is deeply silly.
I think it's deeply...
So
well,
silly.
that's the problem. It's just, like... Because with music, there's so much...
I mean, I know there's a lot of money involved.
It's all copying. Like, all of it is copying. And musicians will say this. Like, especially jazz musicians. Like, you are taking something that you like and you're recreating it with your own addition. You know? Like... And
that's how you're supposed to do it.
Exactly.
You're taught in school
you're supposed
to do a certain way.
Yeah. I mean, and, like, not just in school, but anywhere that you learn jazz or any improvisational music. Like, it's all copying. And they're, you know, like, it's pretty agreed upon. Like, we're told to, like, transcribe and
right.
We do it, and we learn by doing that.
And you listen to other people who are better than you, and you work on your art.
Use their shit and, like, use them as inspiration.
I mean, that's the way everything works in the world. Like, I work in a factory. Like, the only reason that each factory in the world is not its own thing. I mean, trade laws try and make it that way. Like, you know, or trade secrets try and make it that way. But, like, well, one place learns how to do something better or more efficiently or cleaner or, like, higher quality. And, like, other people figure it out. Like, there's whole academic conferences about it. Yeah. And there are for music, too. Like, that's the way that progress gets made.
Yeah.
Is sharing information.
Absolutely.
And sharing skills. And
for sure.
And sharing tools.
So, like, how do we integrate that, like, the whole sharing aspect and how important it is to share.
And how positive it is and mutually beneficial.
And how positive it is and mutually beneficial and usually... You know, like, if there's really good intention behind an action,
right,
it usually has positive results. Like, how do we integrate those ideas with these, like, negative views of cultural appropriation in its entirety? You know, like, how do we stop, like, using appropriation to encompass, like, this huge spectrum of results and intentions. Like...
So how's your thesis going?
Oh, man. Well, this is the most I've talked about it ever, probably. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm confusing myself more and more by the minute. So, I mean, I wrote a paper about cultural appropriation and trying to define it at the end of last semester. And, like, you know, it's kind of like releasing the album, you know? Like, the further I get away from it, the more imperfect it seems.
Yeah, I'm feeling that as we keep talking about it. Like, we're talking about it, but it's just sort of like... And like, not in a bad way, but it's kind of a silly thing to talk about. Like,
yeah.
It's not... It's related to a way that we're talking about things that kind of talk about material conditions.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the problem with academia, though, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, music academia in particular is what I can speak for. But, like, with music academia and... I mean, specifically, like, writing about art, writing about any kind of art, you're going to run into these problems constantly.
Because you're writing about something that's not physical. Well, it's physical, but it's, like, conceptual, too. You're writing about a concept.
You're writing about a concept. You're spending all of this time and energy talking about something that, like... I mean, not all the time. Like, a lot of people are writing about really important things that are happening. But, like, a lot of the time when you read academic prose about art, it's... concerning all of these things that don't really seem to matter very much.
Or they're not real.
Or they're not real. Or they're, like, really outdated.
Because it's the exact thing you're saying, is you're saying, like, we have this term that we throw around a lot that is just kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Or it's way more complicated than we're giving it credit for.
It's way more complicated than we're giving it credit for.
Obviously, like, you know, an apple is more complicated than an apple.
Right.
Than the word apple.
Yeah.
But... It's still, like, really running up short and it's keeping us and distracting us from having the important conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, like, what do we do about that?
Yeah.
I mean, and it's I think it's good to talk about because, you know, I think the way it affects real life is you have a 6-year-old getting harassed on the internet.
Yeah.
Or you have people who are doing total bullshit stuff and nothing's happening because people don't know how to talk about what they're doing, so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the really horrible shit, the really horrible levels of violence, like intellectual violence and, like, cyber violence that happens isn't being called out properly, you know? Like, it just sucks when you have an entire society turned into a mascot, or... turned into a Halloween costume. It's really horrible, and of course it has absolutely horrible
real world effects.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it inspires a lot of really horrible shit. So I'm gonna write about it, I guess. I don't know anymore. Now that we've had this conversation, I don't know. Change my thesis topic. Well, you know, now I'm just thinking, like, I'm getting all paranoid. I'm like, did one of my professors send this person to talk about this with me? Like,
no. Here's the thing.
Like, who do you know?
I show up to people's houses. I get out my microphone. I say hello to their cats, or their partners, or whoever, and then I'm like, tell me about the way that, like, tell me about the way that you recorded your last album. Tell me about that music video you made.
And they're just like, life is a lie! Life is a lie!
They're like, let me just start telling you about how my dad was murdered.
Yeah.
And, like, it's just like, I asked about your piano. They're like, well, but you can't start there.
You have to start here.
I'm like, why do you like metal music? Well, you know, after my mom abandoned us. Like, it just, it goes so deep so quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I'm mostly talking to people who are not used to microphones. Because I think that when you get used to, like, being in press stuff, like, you learn how to sort of mentally, like, wrap up your thoughts in a cleaner way, or, like, say things you're not going to regret, or, like, or even just talk about stuff that doesn't matter that much. But the people I'm talking to, a lot of the time, like, no one has been like, let's, like, because for real, like, because, like, you know, I have a ton of friends who like my music or know I do music, but they're never going to ask me, like, my philosophy on, like, you know, on, like, well, isn't punk music isn't punk music cultural appropriation.
Right.
Like, you're never going to be like, well, what's your philosophy on that? Because it's kind of like calling out your friends. They're just going to be like, oh, great show, babe. Like, good job. They're never going to be like, oh, like, I noticed, like, in the third stanza of your last record, like, you mentioned, like, your gender identity. Let's talk about... Like, I don't know. It's
like, what? Whoa. Clutch the pearls.
But yeah, I just realized we had gotten on this long tangent about cultural appropriation. But the way that it started was I asked what kind of music your EP is.
Oh, yeah.
So what kind of music is it? Besides full of cultural appropriation, which, as we have just determined, is everywhere. And completely unavoidable.
Unavoidable.
In music especially. So, what, just in layman's terms.
Okay. Well, it's inspired by a lot of the stuff that we play in Batuque.
Mm-hmm. Which is the Brazilian band.
Yeah. I don't know, like, specifically, but, I definitely know that Brazilian music was used as an inspiration.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Otherwise...
Is, like, dance music?
I mean, sort of. I mean, it's got, like, a lot of the same... Like, it's not, like, through composed, so there's improvisation happening. Mm. People are taking solos.
Just through composed mean you wrote every note, so, like, it's not, you didn't write every note.
I didn't write every note, but, like, there's a lot of writing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's definitely jazz-inspired.
Mm-hmm.
There's, like, there are Afrobeat elements... it's weird, like, I'm writing about cultural appropriation, but I have no idea, like, what it's inspired by.
Or, like, how to talk about...
Or how to talk about, like, anything related to genre.
You don't always know where your influences are.
I mean, like, I listen to, like, Fela Kuti and a lot of, like, pagode and samba music.
So is the bass sort of the spotlighted instrument?
No, not at all.
Oh, really?
No,
so even
no.
in your own EP,
yeah,
you're in the background.
Oh yeah, totally.
In the what, I don't know what band name did you come up with a band name, or is it just like the Palmer EP? You are not basically the center of attention.
No,
that's incredible. That's really interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's still, like, my EP, because it's still, like, I wrote all the shit.
You composed it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I was trying to, like, showcase more, like, my composition skills and, like, my knowledge of harmony and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, it was more of, like, a theoretical album. Yeah.
Like, what's the album art gonna be like?
Oh, man. Well, I was hoping it would be, like, a picture of me lying on, like, a pool floaty in a bathing suit, wearing sunglasses. I really wanted it to be that.
I volunteer to be the photographer for that.
Sweet. I don't know how you're going to float above a pool, but...
Drones?
Or
diving boards.
Oh my god.
Just lay on a diving board and be really careful.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Well, just in, transmusic.org exclusive, I'm going to be the photographer for the Palmer EP.
Yeah, yeah, if it ever comes out.
If it ever comes out, or maybe
you'll
just, like, get so in your head about the definition of cultural appropriation that you'll just
I'll never
play
any art again.
Just, like, you'll never show up again.
Yeah, I'll just die.
I mean, you gotta pay rent, right? Like, we all have to pay rent. We all have to.
I'll just be like, I'll just, like, live naked in the woods.
As much as I
like,
love
never
theory,
wear clothes or cut my hair.
But then someone will be like, well, this is, like, what are you doing there? Like, someone will have a problem with it. Like, we all have to pay rent. We all have to eat food. Like,
That's
you still
true.
have your list of things you have to do every day.
That's true.
So, like, take your meds, eat food, exercise. Like, no matter what the academics have to say, you have to do those things.
Yeah, this is very true. Well, maybe I'll just, write a thesis and hope that it gets approved, and then they'll just give me my master's degree, and I can go shove coffee in people's faces someday and not ever think about any of this ever again.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, well, this podcast will be like a time capsule. We'll delete it once you have your master's.
Sweet.
It'll just never be on the internet again.
Never.
That is not a promise.
I appropriated in this interview.
No, I appropriated this interview.
We both did.
This is a very violent conversation.
I feel so icky right now. I feel feel so icky right now.
Oh no.
It's okay.
Let's talk about something happy.
Okay.
Let's talk about how much the guitarist in my band has a crush on the guitarist in your band. So, Shantae, I'm calling you out, has the world's biggest crush on the singer for the Muslims, and I don't know what that person's name is.
Layla?
Layla, I get. The
Layla Noor?
Yeah, the one who isn't you and isn't the drummer.
Yeah, Layla.
Yeah, Layla. Okay, so Shantae's in love.
Oh my god.
So I had seen y'all, I had come to your last album release, which also, can we talk about the fact that you had an album release like 2 months ago and you're releasing one at the beginning of the year? But that's a different question.
Oh yeah.
That's very fast, and I'm very impressed. But, yeah, Shantae's in love. Like, What can we do to make, like, you know?
Layla's married.
Oh, dang. Sorry, Shantae.
Layla's straight up married.
Oh. Yeah. Oh,
this
God.
Sucks. I hate that I have to be the person to relay this information.
Because I had seen y'all, and I also have met you around, so I was just like, oh yeah, like, what an awesome band. Like, I really like this. Like, oh, Shanta, you're gonna like this band, and like, we go and we see you guys at Manifest, and like, her eyes were the size of dinner plates. She's like, Riley, I'm in love. All right. So,
she's not the first person.
Yeah, that's like sex appeal is 100% part of the reason that like everyone gets excited at your shows, because like y'all are all like such beautiful people. You're jumping around. You like hug each other on stage.
Oh,
you're just so freaking positive, and you're singing. I mean, you're singing about really real shit. Like you're singing about like stuff that's really important. Yeah. So, like, it's obvious that you're all, like, leftists, or at least somewhere around there. Yeah. And then, like, you're also super attractive. And then, like, you're also, like, good friends. And you seem like you're like, all a good time. And so, like, I just think that, I just think that, like, unfortunately, your audience is probably all in love with you. Oh, and I don't know if anyone's told you this before, but, like, that's probably what's happening. And, like, I get that that's how the entire music industry works. Like, that's how Justin Bieber works or whatever. Yeah. You're like Justin Bieber for the radical queers. Like, that's what y'all are, unfortunately. I just really felt the need to bring that up. Because I thought we were going to talk about the Muslims this whole time. Really? I had no idea. I thought, because I don't know why, but you seem the kind of person who would be like, don't ask me about my thesis. Like, let's just talk about cool stuff. Like, I don't know.
Oh, man. I just try to, like, live in all the things that I do. So yeah. They're all always there.
They're all great. So I thought we were going to talk about, like, you know, but, no, this has been great. I'm really, excited.
Yeah.
I'm really excited that we.
Well, nobody ever interviews me. We'll be like, the Muslims have an interview, like, right, or like Kaiki has an interview, and I'm just like, just give me a paycheck. Yeah. But like, you know, I just like sit on my couch and practice all the time.
Well, I really liked interviewing you. Maybe after this, people will interview you more.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I have things to say.
Well, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for coming to my house.
Your beautiful, beautiful home.
I love it here.
Thanks to Sinclair for talking to me. To learn more about the Muslims, visit themuslims.bandcamp.com. To hear Kaiki Vidal and Batuque, visit kaikividal.com. That's CAIQUEVIDAL.com. To see those great pictures of Sinclair chopping wood and playing bass, go check out their profile on the Durham Beat website. And hey, if you like the show and have time, send this to your coolest trans friend. Thanks for listening, subscribe to the podcast, and go check out transmusic.org for new trans music daily.